One day I was doom scrolling and I saw this interesting advertisement for a first-person shooter where you raid player-built outposts and build your own death traps for others to have a go at. At first I thought, okay, well, why would I enjoy a Clash of Clans FPS reskin? And so I signed up for the newsletter, waited until February 5th, downloaded the open beta, and... point. I earned it. Thank you. Yeah, I am proven wrong yet again. Meet Your Maker was not at all what I assumed or expected it to be. I mean, there is a beautiful balance of variety where there's always something to do, but it's all meaningful and there isn't so much that it's overwhelming. Looking at you, MMOs. Now, I played through most of the beta except the last 2 days. I just simply forgot, but I was checking in every day to collect my Raider Death rewards for my outposts and to level up my Chimera. I managed to get to rating rank Bronze 4, and I got my Chimera to level 23, with all of my advisors at some sort of double digits level. I honestly cannot check. This game is set to release on April 4th, 2023, which is honestly way sooner than I expected. And interestingly enough, they're not accepting pre-orders for the game. I just thought that was kind of weird, and I feel like they would have received a lot of great feedback. I didn't find that many problems with the game, honestly. It's very well developed at this point. So I am a little sad that I can't even pre-order the game and let them know that they're doing it really right. But in preparation for the release, I just wanted to talk about what worked, what didn't, and what wasn't there. And in this video, I also want to provide some tips and tricks that I learned while playing, so stay tuned. First, can we talk about how fun the movement is? I mean, sure, you walk slow as all, but I'm talking about the grapple. It's fun, it's added flexibility to your kit, although I do kind of wish it was maybe modifiable or upgradable, perhaps via limited slots like you can with traps and guards. I think that could be interesting. It's not really a problem. I'm just kind of curious if the devs considered it, and if that's something that they might pursue either in the release or maybe a future update. But I gotta say, I didn't like that sometimes the grapple didn't pull you around corners and it just had the cord going through the corner of a block, but your head got stuck underneath of it and then you die? I mean, that probably caused like a third of my deaths. It would also be cool if the velocity of your character during and upon exiting grappling was maybe dependent on the distance of the hook from your character, or maybe perhaps the verticality. I mean, just a thought. Also not a real problem. I'm just kind of curious. Right now, velocity seems to only change depending on your horizontal distance to the grapple. Which brings me to my first tip. You can actually gain a significant speed boost with your grapple, but it only works when hooking onto a same or similar horizontal plane as your feet are on. What you'd have to do is you have to grapple really any distance ahead of you, and then once you lift off of the ground, you just hit space, and you get to retain your momentum as it pulls you forward. Now, I found that you can really build those speed boosts by ejecting off of the grapple as soon as you hit the air, because your grapple doesn't really have that big of a cooldown, so you can just grapple jump, grapple jump, grapple jump, and just accumulate and maintain that higher speed. Another tip with the grapple is if you grapple onto a vertical surface, land there, and then wait for your hand animation to appear in the bottom left, your double jump has been reset. Normally, your double jump only resets once you've landed on the ground. This has saved me many times, and I certainly put that specific knowledge to use in certain brutal outposts where there wasn't much floor to work with. And maybe this part is just me, but I wish there was a better way to collect resources gained from raider deaths inside your outposts. I mean, for some outposts that are a little interestingly built, it can be difficult to collect the resources in all the nooks and crannies, especially if you've got hollow cubes and corrosive cubes that the resources can fall through. Also, personally, I don't know about you guys, but my deaths and loot numbers were always bugged on my outposts, so I never really knew if I needed to collect anything. Hopefully that's fixed in the release. I am curious if literally anybody else had that problem, because I have not run into anybody who has had that problem yet. I also found it a bit of a waste of time to have to go through 3 loading screens just to get to my next outpost to collect. I mean, it's not that big of a deal, and yeah, I'm impatient, but come on. I mean, it's unnecessary. 3? I mean, I would go into my command center, enter my outpost, load, run around and probably still miss resources, and then load back out, and then go to my command center, enter my outpost, load. It could even be something like a drop box. that only builders see at the spawn, or perhaps they have an option to get an overview of the deaths, the resources gained per death, the level and rank of the person, and maybe see their replays right there in one menu. I mean, maybe that could just simply replace the replay station inside of Sanctuary, or perhaps the replay station gets an upgrade to make collection more efficient and provide all of that building information in one spot. It would at least make it worth it to have to load in to so many new areas. And if someone loves the tedious nature of collection, then they can ignore the Dropbox altogether and go manually hunt down all those little headstones. It would also be kind of fun to let the Harvester, or maybe the Harvester's cousin, have a job in this. Like, the little Harvester collects the resources and is like, dude, I gotta get this shit out of my way so I can do my civic duty and make it home in time for a nap. And you actually get a tad bit of bonus XP from various places during a raid. If you can get one of their traps to kill their Harvester, or kill a guard, or break one of their traps, you get experience called Defense Backfired. Depending on what it killed or broke depends on how much experience you get exactly, although I have found you can get up to 50 experience for each instance of that happening. Stray bolts from enforcers, bolt shot traps, and bomb ejectors can help you clear the way and save your own bolts. I will say though, if you die a lot in the outpost, your bonus experience on breaking stuff will diminish to just 1 experience each time you break it, and that applies to most forms of experience except for Forsaken Tombs. If you kill that same enforcer at the very beginning like a million times, you'll get maybe 20 experience and some headshot experience, like the first 5 times or whatever. I actually haven't counted. But after a while, it'll go all the way down to 1 experience each time. But one of the great upsides to this game is that you get to keep all the experience you make, even if you die a bunch. So run in there and wreck it. And speaking of, keep an ear out for a rumbly noise as you explore. There are irremovable blocks called Forsaken Tombs. These give you a beautiful 250 experience upon first break, and a whole bunch of extra synthite. And once you find and break a tomb, you don't have to hunt it down again. It won't replenish between deaths. However, be careful that the builder isn't using it to lure you into some traps. Some may leave it alone and out in the open because they just don't care to spend the block capacity on something like that, but some people purposefully build it into their outposts. And they could be nice, they could present it to you in a beautiful little room just for fun, or they'll make you work for it. Now, what I've found is that the difficulty of the outpost affects how many tombs are available to break. I also have a theory that the size of the burial site affects it, but at the same time, size and difficulty are somewhat correlated. If you've had a chance to play, you'll understand that if you have a bigger burial site, you'll have more block capacity. And a higher capacity means more opportunity for guards and traps that increase your difficulty, right? So the harder and larger the outpost, there tends to be more tombs. So far, I've discovered that normal difficulty tends to have only 1, 2 if you're lucky, dangerous tends to have 2 or 3, and brutal tends to have 3 or 4. Now, the champion outposts in each of these may have more than that base number, just because they're more difficult. I have found up to 8 unique Forsaken Tombs in a champion brutal outpost. It was kind of wild. But I also want to note that at the time, during the open beta, every champion outpost that I saw was created by someone with the screen name Devious Team. And I'm pretty sure that's the developers, so a part of me wonders if they just wanted to flex a little bit in that one outpost and put a bunch of fun goodies for no reason other than they could. But as a player, you can't place any additional tombs and you can't move them. But you can mask a tomb as a bedrock block if you unlock the hollow block. Now, corrosive cubes are technically by default pass-through enabled, but you cannot put corrosive blocks over Forsaken Tombs. But with the hollow block, you can make it extra hard to find the Forsaken Tombs, and if you add some additional camo mods, there's some traps in there, someone is in for a very unpleasant surprise. Trust me, I have found this surprise before. There also doesn't seem to be a lot of incentive to level up your advisors unless you're someone who wants to rush resource gathering and get those resource boosts. Like, maybe the advisors can have multiple boosts per, or maybe you can even modify them so that their boosts can be combined. Like maybe parts A and B makes Prozirmaugi give you exact number of traps and approximate guards, but parts A and C gives exact traps and harvester length. They seem a bit on the back burner at the moment is all. I mean, you could lessen the duration gain per level if that would balance the modifiability, but I'm just thinking that this could probably open up a lot more playstyles and give people motivation to use their advisors other than just Prozirmaugi and the guard's advisor. And a quick tip, you can have all of your advisors' boosts going at the same time. And it's honestly a little crazy. If you level them up a bunch, the cost of their 3-tiered boosts do not change. So if you spend all your time and possibly more than single outposts on specific advisors, you can really, really increase that duration and stretch your resources so far. I also want to say, I want a lot more mods. I mean, there's a lot, but I want more. I want a huge variety. I want to be kept on my toes. I don't want to be able to remember all of the mods that can fit on a trapper guard. You know what I mean? I don't want to be able to know that information easily. I also wonder if they could have mods that maybe have both a buff and a debuff. Like maybe being able to be activated additional times, but less bolts shoot out per activation. Just a thought, it's not really a problem. And maybe there's even a mod that makes the trap flush with the ground. Or maybe makes it paintable, just for the extra difficulty. I mean, sometimes you can see traps because they rise from the edges a bit, where the blocks come together, but I mean, maybe they could just build that into the base features of the game. Maybe that would make it too hard, and that'd be bad to garner a large player base? Not sure, but I would love to see the game just be absolutely unforgiving. And here's another tip for ya. All traps and all guards that can be modified only have 2 slots. If you've built and upgraded your own outposts, guards, and traps, you'll have a better sense of how expensive each mod is, and you can gauge what the builder might have been able to deploy while you're raiding them. And when you or others put mods on something, it is fully visible on that trap or guard. For traps, there are 2 small LCD panels on the top and bottom of the trap. Of course, if it's on the floor, there isn't really a top and bottom, but they will always be on the 2 opposite sides, top or bottom, left or right. There will be a yellow icon, and each mod has a unique symbol. Now, you don't know what those symbols for each mod is until you've seen it in person, in your own outpost, or in others. The symbol for that mod will not be shown when you select the mods. Those symbols are different than what is displayed on that tiny little panel. And you will be able to see the mods on those little panels even after destroying it, so keep your eyes peeled. My main one that I keep an eye out for after stealing the gen mat is the 4 squares arranged in a 2x2 grid. That means second wave. And if you've played the game, you know what the second wave mod does. But it just helps me spot traps that I have not destroyed while I'm on my way out of the base. And it has saved me quite a few times. Now, for guards, it may be a blue glowing detonator on their hip, or maybe plate armor, but all guards only need 1 bolt to die. If they have plating, they still only technically need 1 bolt to die, because they still have weak spots. For example, enforcers only get plating on their top half, so if you shot their pinky toe, they will still die. And for warmongers with plating, they actually get it on their upper body and their lower body. But if you shoot them in the face, you'll kill them in 1 shot. And you'll get bonus experience for headshots. That applies to all guards though. To fully understand mods and other people's outposts as you're raiding them, I feel like it's really important to also spend time building your own. And that's what I love about this game. Both sides of the coin have been loved and fleshed out, and you need to experience both so that you can fully enjoy and participate in the other. They go beautifully hand in hand, where you learn what trips you up while raiding, and you learn what builds are possible and impossible while making your own maze. Which brings me to my next tip. Whether you're out raiding or you're building, you can never place decorations or paint on the same surface as a trap. Yes, you want to make a beautiful, beautiful, gorgeous oblivion for invaders. But don't get too carried away, or they'll notice the bare spots. And when you're a raider, keep note of those bare spots. If there's nothing there, note that down. And when you've stolen the gen mat and you're suspicious of what they use the rest of their build capacity for, keep an eye on those bare spots. And finally, tip 10, always look around the bases before going in the front. Whether you find isolated Forsaken tombs and get a quick 250 experience right off the bat, or perhaps there's a shortcut in and out, you'll thank me. It's worth taking an extra minute or 2 to maintain your rank and prevent silly deaths. Some people forget to block holes really close to the gen mat because who's gonna look over here anyway? And, well, I don't have that 1 extra block to spare, or I'm too lazy, so I'll leave it. Seriously. You might be able to cheese some really hardcore bases like this. I have. And I've even cheesed some developer outposts like this. Also, can I just say that I finally got around to watching the 1997 movie The Labyrinth with David Bowie, and what the f***? Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Is there anything you liked, disliked, anything you'd like to see changed or added? Personally, another small thing I'm curious about is that ranking system I mentioned at the beginning. What will it affect in the full release? From what I can tell, it was actually pretty accurate. If I die 20 times in a normal outpost and escape with the gen map, I'll lose like 300 points. But if I die 20 times in a brutal champion outpost and escape with a gen mat, I'll actually gain 60. It seemed to actually factor in the specifics of each outpost, and from what I could tell on the consumer side, it seemed pretty fair. But also from what I could tell, it didn't seem to actually affect anything during the open beta, but was just kind of an aesthetic thing. But anyway, if you're planning on picking the game up on April 4th, feel free to join our Discord server to party up, or we can at least share our highlights and all of our shameful, hilarious deaths. And hey, if you want to see more Meet Your Maker videos or other talkthroughs, please subscribe and like this video. It'll help others find this content and learn way too much about a singular game. If you're really still here, I'm going to give you the best tip I learned by pure accident. You can deflect bolts in the game. Not reflect, so it won't fire the attack back to the source or in the direction you're facing, but it will render it harmless. This is especially useful in tight situations against enforcers, when you don't have enough bolts, and most surprising for me is that you can actually deflect bolt shot traps. I mean, seriously, that's a wall of metal arrows. I don't know how it would work given the harsh punishing nature of this game, but you just slash your sword as you would normally attack with it when the bolt is about a foot in front of you, and you'll hear a metallic ting, gain a bit of XP. If you're having trouble getting the timing down, I would suggest making a practice outpost for yourself. I personally like to sidestep as the bolt approaches so that if I miss, it'll narrowly fly by my head and give me some easy close call experience. As always, I really appreciate you guys, and I'll see you in the next video.